Manx Radio Sport.
Exactly 5:30 here on Manx Radio. Good evening, welcome along to the Friday Sport Preview. Simon Quine looking after things for Rob Pritchard this week and next week. Coming up, we will look ahead to all of the local football, rugby and hockey action on Ireland across the weekend. Of course, we'll look at the effects that the storm damage over the last 24 hours or so may have on fixtures and anything else happening sport-wise this weekend. We'll preview the FC Isle of Man game. They're back at the Bowl this week, entertaining AFC Liverpool. Hear from manager Paul Jones. And if we've got time, we'll also squeeze in some TT news, looking ahead to TT 2025. But it is just after 5:30 here on Manx Radio. And as I mentioned, FC Isle of Man are scheduled to play AFC Liverpool this weekend in the North West Counties Football League Premier Division. All being well, weather permitting and travel permitting, it will be a 6 p.m. kickoff at the Bowl tomorrow. Last time against AFC Liverpool at the end of November, the Ravens suffered late heartbreak as the home team scored in stoppage time to secure a 2-1 win. FC Isle of Man manager Paul Jones has been talking to Darren Timpson.
Yeah, I think we shouldn't need any additional motivation to get back on track. I think that's there no matter who we're playing. I think the circumstances of how we lost against AFC Liverpool in terms of it being so late in the game, and it probably should have been over already because the referee played additional minutes of extra time and the player getting sin binned and scoring so late direct from a corner. It was just like took a bit of wind out of our sails at the time, and we didn't get an opportunity to play the next week because the game was off. So it was 2 weeks before the next game after that, and we felt in a really good place and we played well in that game and felt we definitely should have come away with it and with something, if not all 3 points. So hopefully it is a good opportunity to get back on track again. But I have to say I don't feel like our performances have been terrible. I think we're in every game. We're creating opportunities to score and to get points in every game. We're just not quite seeing it through, and some of that is just a little bit of confidence, a little bit of belief, a little bit of luck at times, and we're not far away, but we all understand we really very much want to and need to get back to winning ways if we're going to realise our ambitions by the end of the season, and hopefully this weekend is a good opportunity off a strong performance that we had against Padiham on Saturday to do just that.
So taking it from that game early December, where do you expect Liverpool to be strong, and how do you think that you can best hurt them at the weekend?
Obviously we've played each other relatively recently, so we know a little bit more about them and they know a little bit more about us, so it'll be interesting to see how both teams kind of set up with that knowledge. They're like every team in this league, they've got good attacking players, and if you give them half a yard or you switch off at all, they've got the quality to really hurt you. But again, like every team, most teams in the league, there's opportunities to score goals, and I think our finishing kind of let us down in that particular game. So I think we're capable of creating chances. It's just a case of being really clinical in the final third, and I think we have more than enough in the group to cause significant problems for them. But we really have to make sure we take our chances more often than we have done in recent weeks to see games off.
You currently find yourself 7 points off the playoff places with more games played than 4th, 5th and 6th. But the 15 games to go, you only have 3 away games. Do you think that's kind of the perfect opportunity for you to make those playoff places? Do you think your side is still best placed to make those positions?
I think we're capable of doing it. Obviously, we're going to have to win a lot of games in order for that to happen. And we're also going to require a couple of teams kind of slipping up. But, everyone could beat everybody in this league, and a couple of teams are on really good runs at the minute, and it's not often at this level of football that continues. So we've got to hope that doesn't happen, it doesn't continue, and that we can go on a bit of a run.
FC Isle of Man manager Paul Jones speaking to Darren Timpson there ahead of the Ravens game against AFC Liverpool this weekend at the Bowl. I'll bring Tony Mepham in here because you'll be on commentary duty tomorrow evening for us at the Bowl, presuming everything goes to plan with the travel. And we understand at the moment that things are looking like that game will go ahead.
Yeah, I was just listening to the weather forecast before, and just everything seems to be calming down a little bit tomorrow, which couldn't have got any worse, could it really? Because that was unbelievable what came in today. But no, I think they're due to fly in. I think it's late morning, early lunchtime-ish, so we'll have a good indication on that one. But, the Bowl's an artificial surface, so there's no problem in that. It's just getting the team here because, you don't really call a game of football off because of the wind. It's usually a waterlogged pitch, which we're not going to have a problem with, but it's trying to get those 25 members of AFC Liverpool over to the Isle of Man. So fingers crossed, and hopefully everything goes to plan.
Well, we'll touch more on the weather a little bit later on, Tony, when we come to the domestic games. But just on that FC Isle of Man game, obviously they battled hard in the last 20 minutes or so against Paddingham last week to try and get that equaliser. But again, it's this usual pattern we're seeing. This turn of the year seems to be a time that they struggle to string a few results together, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm glad you spotted that, because I've seen it over the last couple of years, to be honest with you. And, I just, before Christmas, November, I was looking at it and thinking to myself, they really are in a good position here. They were right up in the playoffs, and the teams around them with similar games. There's one or two that had played a lot less, but, you just thought, yeah, they're in with a chance. And it's all gone a little bit pear-shaped, and what's causing the problem? The players are pretty well available. There was one or two players maybe missing the odd week, but in general, Paul's got a fit and healthy squad, so it's getting the best out of that squad. He's had to tinker with the centre-back role, and I think Sam Baines has done a really good job coming in alongside Alex Maitland. But it's just maybe one or two players who you could count on, sort of form dipped a little bit. But scoring goals, as Paul's interview has just said, is the big problem. Mm-hmm. And when you've got the talent of people like Charlie Higgins, you've got Dean Pinnington in there, and then you look at Steve Whitley down that right-hand side, you've got Dan Hattersley, and you've also got the main man, Sean Doyle. Then there's plenty of goals there, so it's just getting, I think, the wings going. Charlie on the left, hopefully, and Steve on the right, and see if whoever he picks, Sean Doyle or whoever it is, up front can get the goals to get the result that they need.
OK, Tony, thank you very much. And Rob Pritchard and Tony on commentary duty from the Bowl from 6 o'clock tomorrow evening for that game between FC Isle of Man and AFC Liverpool. Let's turn our attention then to local football. And Tony, first of all, we'll come back to the weather. Now, I haven't had any notification of postponements or anything yet. It's probably a little bit early for those pitch inspections to have taken place, I'm guessing.
I don't think we'll be too bad with the pitch inspections, because with that wind, I know there's a little bit of rain coming in tonight. It's supposed to be heavy for about an hour. But what came this morning or early last night, I think that will have sort of gone. The pitches are in good shape on the Isle of Man, to be fair, because a lot of hard work is done throughout the summer to get them in that position. But overall, if the wind comes back in, we'll listen to what the police say. And if the police advise no travel, then we'll look at it seriously, and we'll make that decision 10 o'clock. The office is manned at 10 o'clock, so anyone's got any postponements, please get in touch with the team that's there, and we'll make a collective decision by then, and we'll see if we can get it to you, Simon, by the 10 o'clock news, so everybody knows what's happening.
Great. OK, and just mentioning the weather as well, just one thing to mention for this evening, if I can just find the details in front of me. The Isle of Man FA Academy sessions at the Bowl tonight have been cancelled. They also have the Isle of Man Junior Football League Under-14 games at the Bowl, the Colby AFC games as well, they've been cancelled. And like you've said, the office is shut until 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. And
that's taken on the advice as well of the police, not to travel. We don't want to put anyone at risk, and stay safe, stay warm, and enjoy the night off.
And let's move on to tomorrow's fixtures then, Tony. We start off with Marown against Ramsey. I think there's only one way this game's going to go, isn't there?
Yeah, I think you're right in that one. And, Ramsey have shown it over the last couple of weeks. They can mix it with the big teams. And certainly Marown have got the players to do it there, because they've started picking up the odd few points. But it's a big ask, and when you look at themselves, St George's, and then just above them is Onken. I know there's a little bit of a points difference between Onken and St George's, but Onken have been picking up useful points against top sides, and that's what you've got to do, bonus points as I call them. But Ramsey, depends what Anthony Cooper and Andy Perry's team shapes up like, but I would think certainly the team that they've had over the last few weeks has looked pretty strong. And going through, when I look at Dominic Parrish, you look at Dylan Pickles, Graham Kennish has played really well. And it just depends if Matthew Montgomery's in the team, he adds a little bit more steel. I can tell by your eyes as well. You've picked your winner, and I think I'm going to go with you, and that's Ramsey. OK, we move on to the next game, which is at the Bowl, St Mary's against Laxey, 1:45. Kick-off for this one is this scutch of teams, St Mary's, Union Mills, Ramsey, Laxey, very tight together in that, just outside the top three in the Premier League. This is going to be a really big game in terms of where this ends up, isn't it? You're right. I think there's a lot of pressure on these two teams, because you look at Laxey last week. I was gobsmacked with that result against Russian when they lost 5-0. And Johnny Palmer will be absolutely seething with that. And I'm sure he's absolutely caned the players midweek at training, because, that's the squad that he's got there. should be right up the top with your sort of Corinthians, Peels and Ayr United. Yes, they're in the mix there, but it's just that consistency going. And St Mary's, again, they sort of had a good lead last week, and then it all went by the wayside for them. So I'm going to go for, I think, St Mary's just to win it. I don't know what the squad is, but if there's one or two of the FC Isle of Man players available to play for them, and that could happen, then that could be the difference between them and Laxey winning the game. So I'll go with St Mary's to take the result.
Okay, and Russian against Onchan. Russian looking to, like you say, capitalise on that great result against Laxey last week in what is a big game for them.
Well, it is a big game, and it's a big game for Onchan because, as I was saying before, they're just picking up the odd point here or there. Against Russian, you would have said before last week's result, good chance for 3 points there. But wherever that performance came from, well done to Russian, well done to everyone involved. And it just sort of gives them a little bit of belief in themselves because it's a young team, so they're going to get better as time goes. But Mark Blair, seasoned pro in goal, really strong goalkeeper. Then you look at people like Scott Mason at the back, really good. Jamie Cadwallader as well is in there. So I would just say that if Russian can show what they did in last week's 90 minutes in that game, then they should be able to win it. But when you've got players like Onchan have, Andy Asbridge will always weigh in with his goals. James Crew should probably be in that team. I'm looking at the Dawson boys as well. They have got, again, a good scutch of young players, and that's why they're getting the results that they are at the moment. I'm going to go just after last week's performance for Russian to take the win.
Okay, and back up to the other end of the table, which what could be a big game, and Ayr really needing to pick up some results because there's starting to be some daylight there between Peel and Corinthians, and Ayr they take on Foxdale.
Yeah, it is, and Ayr United 2 defeats on the trot. When you look, the one against last week against Union Mills, surprise. The week before Corinthians, not probably a surprise. I thought that could have been a draw, but I think it just shows you where Ayr United are at the moment. Johnny Shields is injured and probably may miss a good chunk of the remainder of the season, so that's a big loss. So Hurdy's got a bit of head scratching to do. He's got talented players in the combination, but it's whether they can come in and play the system that he's after. And one, I always think that he should be one of the top players in the island now, Phil Donegan. I really rate him. I think he's a brilliant player, sweet left peg. But it's not going together for Ayr. Foxdale, Lee Gale's back on the island very shortly, so that's a big plus for them. But Jay Chatwood's in there. You got Jason Charmer. You've got other players Kevin Pullman and others who just sort of make it stick together. But Foxdale, the pitch will be a little bit sticky, I know that, but I think they got on it towards the end of last week to just cut it down, which it needed to be done. But I just can't see Foxdale winning this one, and Ayr will get their first win after a long time, and that's unheard of in Ayr's sort of footballing powers, if you like, over the last 2 or 3 years. To have 2 defeats, that's a big surprise for most people.
And you just mentioned as well that Russian Onchan game, there's some points between Russian Onchan and St George's. Russian or Onchan, one of them's going to pick up, or both of them are going to pick up some points this weekend. It's an important game for St George's before that gap becomes too big to close when they take on Union Mills.
Well, it is, and the thing is with St George's, it's quite interesting that I looked at the team sheet and there's some really good players in there. So they've got the basis, they've got good young players in there. Carl Henson, I think his ban might have finished now, so he's a good attribute to have. When you look at other people, whether they're available, Chris Bass through work, you've got Sean Quays in there as well. You just feel for Geordies, don't you? When you look at them where they were, 3 seasons ago and where they are now, it's been a bit of a struggle. But against Union Mills, you wouldn't bet against them at the moment. They're absolutely flying. Jack Murray, Jordan Crawley's been playing really well, and just right the way through the team. When you look at the back, you've got Nathan Yates, you've got Owen in there as well. It looks really good for Ryan Kelly, the manager. And when you look at the way it's gone for them recently and that result against Ayr, then I can only see Union Mills winning this one.
Okay, and we come to the final one, the big one, the top of the table clash between Corinthians and Peel.
Yeah,
no guesses where you're going to be this afternoon.
Yeah, it was quite interesting actually, because Rob sent me a text in the week because I know he was away, and he said, "Which game are you going to?" I said, "Do you need to ask?" He said, "No, job done." And yeah, it's first against second, and when you look at these two teams, they met at Douglas Road. It was Peel who took the lead, and it was Thomas Brown that got the goal. But then after that, Corinthians played really well and got 2 goals back. There's massive improvement throughout that team when you look at Joe Marquez. I don't know if Joe Middleton will play tomorrow, but Declan Blake's been fantastic with Josh Ridings in midfield. You've got Josh Kane as well. Nathan Little's back, which is a big plus. He's been a standout player for Corinthians this year. Defensively, I think Noah Valls will play on that right-hand side. And then you look at the two main people in there, Darren Kane, you've got Bevan Colley and also Stewie Smith. And then I don't know who will be in goal. I think Jack Corrin will still be there because Jack's been doing really well. But when you look at Peel, I think there's a few players who've been away skiing. And I think they're back now. So they've got to find the football legs now. And when I look at people, good young players, Scott Horn, is he done? But Thomas Brown's probably arguably the best player on the island at the moment. He's the player that they've got to try and contain. He's quick, he can shoot with both feet, and Corinthians know what they've got to do. But I'm going to go for a draw on this one. I think it's going to be tight, and actually I think a draw will suit Peel because it's a game I feel if Corinthians are going to get involved to close that 4-point gap, and Peel have still got a game in hand as well, they need the 3 points, so they might just open it up a bit and go for it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think this is a bigger game for Corinthians than it is Peel, because if that gap becomes 6 points with a game in hand, then that's really getting to a stage where it's going to be pretty tough for Corinthians to close that gap.
Well, it is, and Peel have got an awkward fixture coming up shortly against Uni Mills as well. And as we've just said, Uni Mills are in good form. So if Corinthians could win it, then 1 point difference, game in hand, and then, Corinthians have still got to win their remaining games, but it just puts them back in the drive at the moment. Uni Mills and Corinthians have sort of given it semi to Peel. Now it's up to Corinthians to maybe try and take it off Peel. It's going to be a great game.
And Tony, live at that game for us tomorrow afternoon, Rob Pritchard at St Mary's against Laxey. Move on to Arden and Druggan Limited Division 2. And we start off with Rams Youth Centre, Old Boys against Paul Rose.
Yeah, I watched Rams Youth Centre last week in the GH Collet Woods Cup, and Rams Youth Centre did okay, and haven't seen them for a while. They've got some really good young players in there who like to play with the ball. They get a hold of it. They're tricky. They can get past the defenders. I know they're playing against Malou, but Malou have had some real good season pros in there to try and stop them as well with Paul Rose. Paul Rose can be a threat as well. And again, it's down to what sort of players they've got available. But on last week's performance and looking at the league table, Rams Youth Centre, I think, are third. Then I have to go with Rams Youth Centre to win.
Okay, Colby against Douglas Royal. Colby, really needing to pick up points. They're just losing ground on the top two, aren't they? Yeah,
they are, and there seems to be a little bit of unrest at Colby at the moment. I don't know why. Whether it's they feel, I watched them against Castletown, and they did really well in the first 20 minutes, and then after that they really struggled. So I don't know. I believe Steve Collister is going to be missing this game because I think he's broke a bone in his foot. So speedy recovery, Steve. So a little bit more responsibility on Carl Hickey up front, but just depends. Ollie Edge is in that team as well. You look at right the way through defensively. There's good players in there. Colby have just got to keep winning because I think they know promotion is a big ask, but to get into the Paul Henry for the top four, which is at the end of the season, I think that's their goal. But if there's a slip up the top, they might be able to squeeze themselves in. But whatever's going on in the club and a little bit of unrest, they've got to sort that out and concentrate on the game.
Okay, and Castletown against Old Boys.
Yeah, this is a big game as well because when you look at Old Boys recently against Braddon, a couple of weeks ago, they just threw it away, didn't they? Because the two top sides are playing against each other. The bans will still count, so one or two players are still going to be missing. But again, they've got good players in the combination. You look at the league table in Combi 2, and it says it all. If you've got good supply chain, then you can cover them sort of gaps. Castletown, depends what players they've got available. Alex Crawley up front, Nathan Cardy will be the two main threats. And then you've got Thomas Moore and other people in there who can really mix it. So they'll have a go at Old Boys, but I just think Old Boys will still have enough to take the win.
Okay, and finally in Arden Druggan Limited Division 2, Michael against Malou.
Yeah, I thought, take my hat off to Malou last week. I thought they were brilliant in the GH Call-Up because when you look at a recent game, they got beat 7-0, I think it was, against Governors. And then last week, they really had a go. Mark Hargreaves scored the first goal, giving the lead. But right the way through, they were good. Dean Kinley played at the back and was solid. His free kicks, you know what's going to come from him because he's got a nice kick on him and he's precise with the ball as well. But Mark Pardue also played well in midfield. There's no Kieran Krippner, he's injured, so they haven't got the leader of the pack for Malou. But just think against Michael, with Michael losing those players, it'll be too much of a big ask for them, and I'll go for Malou to win.
Okay, Tony, and we'll move on then to Canada Life Combination 1. We've got a bit more time than normal today, so
yep.
I normally say just pick a winner, but let's if you've got anything more to say, feel free to chip in. Start off with Ramsey against Mepham.
Yeah, I think Ramsey, when you look at what happened recently, Russian lost, so that was a little bit of advantage to Ramsey. I know Onken at the top of the table, but I'm looking at the big guns below, which is Russian and Ramsey. Mm-hmm. But I think Onken, the way they're going at the moment, are going well, but we'll come to them later on where they're playing. But against Mepham, I don't think Mepham will be able to compete with them. I hope Ramsey Stadium's okay, because it was under a bit of water, last week. They've done some good work on it. But I'm going to go for Ramsey to win.
Okay, Laxey against St Mary's.
Don't know with this one, because Laxey had that great win last week and absolutely flying. And St Mary's are a team, Jamie Skillen, probably one of the league's best players in that combination one, scoring plenty of goals for them. And, if they've got players who filter into the first team, that means the first team players who are spare can come into their combination side, make them stronger, and that'll be the difference, I think. So I'll go with St Mary's.
Okay, next one's the clash of the top two, which you've just touched on. Onken take on Rusham.
Yeah, this is going to be a cracking game. And, Onken have had a great season so far, just over the halfway stage and being top of the table and clear, as well with Russian. Okay, they slipped up with those points, but I still feel they've got the team there to make it. This is going to be a massive test for Onken, massive test. Can they do it? I think they can. But, Russian are going to make it really difficult for them, so I'll go for Onken just to win.
I mean, it's not the end of the world if they slip up here, Onken. They've got 2 games in hand.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've had your calendar out to try and factor in when those games are going to be played yet. But, if they drop 3 points here, they've got 6 to play for, haven't they?
Yeah, it is. I totally agree. But, Simon, it's the other way. If they won it, then suddenly it becomes... massive test for them, and the games are running out for these two teams as well, because they play 22 games instead of 24, and when you look at it now, they're just moving into the mid-teens of games played. So yeah, I know what you're saying. It's not a panic station, but Onken want the bragging rights to say that they've beaten potentially the league champions Russian, and they can beat Ramsey as well. So they want to do it with a statement, I think, and at the moment they're going to plan. Okay,
and Ayr against Foxdale.
Going to go for Ayr to win. I know, again, they've got 1 or 2 players sort of down who've filtered into the first team, but I still feel, the difference between the two sides is quite big, so I'll go with Ayr.
And finally, Peel against Corinthians.
Yeah, I haven't seen Corinthians' team sheet today, but on paper, I'm going to go for Corinthians to win. Peel, again, nice little blend of youth and experience in there, and some really good young players coming through at Peel, first team and combination. But I just think Corinthians will have the bragging rights here in this Combi 1 game.
Okay, we move on to Arden and Druggen combination 2. Paul Rose against Ramsey Youth Centre and Old Boys as the first game on the fixture list.
Yeah, I'm going to go for Ramsey Youth Centre to win. I know Paul Rose it's been great that they've been able to get a team out all season. Credit to them. But Ramsey Youth Centre always strong in Combi 2. We'll go with Youth Centre to win.
Okay, and at top of the table, Colby travel to Douglas Royal.
Yeah, and I think that may be where the trouble's coming from, to be honest with you, Simon, at Colby, because you're looking at the first team. Okay, just a little bit off it. You're looking at the combi and doing well, and suddenly players want to play in the combi. And, if you're good enough, you're playing your first team, that's the way it should be. And maybe there's 1 or 2 players. I'm only guessing here, but that's how it looks from a man outside looking in. I'm going to go for Colby to beat Douglas Royal.
Okay, Governors Athletic take on Douglas Athletic.
Yeah, it's, Governors, I think will win it purely physically. I know there's 1 or 2 players, and I noticed Will Penhulrich, who played for St John's first team, transferred back to Douglas Athletic, because that's where he came from in the first place, to the club. Just time commitments and restraints. He can't give the maybe the sort of training and everything that's required for a Premiership side. So with him in there, he'll keep things nice and tight. Physically, Governors will pose a problem. I'm going to go for a draw.
Okay, and Old Boys against Castletown. Castletown will be looking to just close that gap on the top 3 in the table here.
They will, but Old Boys are right up there. But, Old Boys know that they've just got to keep winning because, the pressure right round them, all the teams sort of cancelling each other out now and then. And I'm going to go for Old Boys just to win it, but with those 2 players that they've lost in the first team suspended and 2 players stepping out that combination, that might just hamper them a little bit, but I'll just go with Old Boys.
OK, Tony, and the last fixture for tomorrow, Jims against Braddon in Combi 2.
Yeah, I'm going to go for Braddon. I just think they'll be too strong against Jims.
OK, and just a reminder then, live games tomorrow, Rob Pritchard at St Mary's against Laxia, 1:45 kickoff. Tony, you'll be at Corinthians against Peel. And very quickly, we've just got about 2 minutes before the 6 o'clock news. Some other football news this week is that Blaine Slattery has stepped down from his role as the Isle of Man football team manager. Obviously, Island Games is there, not far away now. How are the FA dealing with this? What's the FA's approach going to be to appointing a new manager?
Yeah, we're on the case. We sort of knew before it was released, Blaine had sort of indicated that he just needed a little bit of time. Work commitments, family commitments, everything was sort of ganging up a bit on him. And, your work comes first, doesn't it? Because your work pays the mortgage and pays the food bills, doesn't it? So, all fair play to him. He's doing well at work. So something had to go. And with only sort of, 5 months to go, I think Blaine just decided that he couldn't commit to it. He gave us good notice. He told the players are gutted because, he played a massive part 2 years ago in the Guernsey Island Games. But now it's finding someone. We've got a plan. We're working on the plan. I'm glad today I couldn't go to work because we've all been making phone calls and just finding out, what people are thinking, where we are. And I think we're nearly there with the conversations that we're having. We'll keep you posted, but yeah, a little bit more work to do just to make sure that everything is right. And then as soon as everyone signs up to it, we'll let you know.
And I know it's never ideal having to do this before a tournament. Are you looking at sort of a short-term manager to get you through the Island Games and then come back with a longer-term approach? Is that the thought process?
Yeah, we're looking at a caretaker manager because to go through interviews and everything, give everyone a chance, we haven't got time because that'll take a month. And then also we've got to be mindful of, Blaine picked his squad of players now. Some of those players have come out of it for certain reasons, becoming parents and work commitments, injuries, non-availability of time off from work. So, it's important. And to be honest with you, I think the squad Blaine picked isn't far away to what I would have picked, to be fair. There's a few names out there, and when you look at sort of Lee Gale, he returns from 3 months away. He was certainly in the squad before he went, but he'll come back and hopefully he's still committed to it. And just maybe one or two other players out there have shown some great form in the last couple of months who I think are worthy of bringing in and having a look at. But that's, up to the manager, to sort that one out. But it's important that we get the right person in. Blaine was a fantastic manager for the island. He was, a credit to himself. And hopefully we can find someone else who's able to do it because, there's a lot of good people out there, but it's finding that time to be able to commit.
OK, Tony, thank you very much. Coming up after 6 o'clock, we'll be joined by Dave Christian to look at rugby, and also Ben Cunningham will be here to look ahead to hockey. And, of course, we will have a look at the all-important weather forecast as well, just after 6.
Manx Radio Sport.
6 minutes after 6, Simon Quine with you on the Friday Sport Preview, looking after things for Rob Pritchard this week and next week here on Manx Radio. We already looked at the football for this weekend. Coming up in the next 25 minutes or so, we will look at rugby. Dave Christian joining us from the north of the island to give us the rugby preview for tomorrow. And Ben Cunningham is here as we look at hockey. It's the start of the men's and ladies' cup, bowl and plate tomorrow, and of course, as always, a selection of under 15s games taking place. We'll preview all of those here on the Friday Sport Preview. But without further ado, let's head up to Ramsey, and with 3 games to look forward to tomorrow, let's say good evening to Dave Christian.
Yeah, good evening, Simon. It was only scheduled to be 2 games this week. However, Douglas had a postponed fixture from early December against Winnington Park, That gets slotted in after a little bit of haggling with the league's organising committee, and they've determined it's going to be played this weekend. Winnington Park, based in Northwich, just up the road from Northwich Rugby Club, so there's two teams playing in these leagues quite close together geographically, and they've got the leakiest defence in the league. They conceded more points than anybody else. They've won 3 from 14, and there's no notable scalps on the belt either. We've seen some of the teams Douglas have played in the last few outings that are down near the bottom end of the table, but at some stage they've beaten one of the big guns in the league table, and Winnington Park's not one of them, so Douglas will have their eye on their second away win this season. They know that to kick on in the league, you're going to have to not just win at home games, you're going to have to pick up points on the road, and statistically winning away from home doesn't happen very often, and looking at the results each week, it's something I see. Key men for Douglas: Simon Hoddenott, Liam Kirkpatrick and Sam McCord. Out of those 3, only Hoddenott appears on the squad list this weekend. No Liam Kirkpatrick. He played for Douglas Casuals last week against Ramsey. He scored a try as well, but it must be work availability that's holding him up. And we haven't seen Sam McCord out for a couple of weeks now, so I suspect he may be carrying an injury. Hoddenott is a prop forward, but he can play just about anywhere in the pack, and he often pops up in the centres or out on the wing, and finding him on the bench is fair play. I mean, he can cover a number of places, but I'd always want him to start. Coach Phil Kringle is going to start himself. Owen Carvin on the other side of the front row of the scrummage. Missing from the back line, from the back row, Liam Kirkpatrick, but we're going to have a back row of Blake Everson, Mark Oldfield, and Harry Cartwright's going to slot in at number 8, with Connor Garland coming into the second row for him. Bryn Snellgrove not always available to travel, so Josh Duncan will be in the 10 jersey, partnering a halfback Nathan Robson at scrum half. And the back line, I think it's pretty much the same as it was last week. Henthorne, James Ross, Kyle Martin, Cal Dentith and Jonty Cope at fullback. The only change on the bench from last week as well is Connor Stevens comes in. Connor can play anywhere in the back line pretty much. A great utility player to have on the bench. He also played in that Douglas Casuals win down at Ramsey, and I don't think he scored in that game, but he was definitely there. So Douglas pretty much full strength, apart from those guys who I've identified as being important to them and perhaps missing. Kick-off at Northwich tomorrow against Winnington Park is at 1:15, so hopefully we'll have a nice early result for that one. Vagabonds, they are in Counties 3, ADM, Lancashire, Cheshire. They're at home against Fleetwood. Now, just had the message through that Fleetwood are coming on the overnight boat tonight from Heysham, so good luck to them with that. I'm sure they'll be down somewhere on Lord Street looking for a nice fried breakfast tomorrow morning when they get in. There's a 2:15 game at Ballafletcher. We'll be covering that one for Saturday Live. Fleetwood, however, are up nearer the top end of the table. They're in 6th place. Just outside the promotion spots, but still with an eye at a fairly early stage in the season to be able to make a dent. They'll be looking to come to the Isle of Man and take away some points. They've won 6 from 11. Vagabonds have won 1 from 11. That one, though, was just after Christmas. It should have been a great boost for the squad. They went away last week, though, and suffered a little bit on the road. And fingers crossed for them. Fleetwood disrupted by the travel arrangements and the weather forecast with a bit of rain coming maybe tomorrow. It may play into Vagabond's hands, particularly if they've got a little bit of confidence in the side. Joe Lowe comes back in the front row for Vaggers. We're missing Mitch Wells in there. He picked up an injury a couple of weeks ago. It's going to keep him out for a while. Matt Rockwell, John Ferguson comes in at the other prop. Gavin Turnbull drops into the second row with Aaron Sloan to make way in the back row for Tom Gascoigne, who scored 2 tries, I think, in that game against Orrell, which they won just after Christmas. Vagabond's backline pretty much unchanged. Captain Dan Bonwick at 10, Matty Williams at scrum half. Paul Howard and Archie Benson take another run at a centre partnership. They were together in the centres last week. And there's just one change on the wing. Regan Williams, who scored in last week's defeat. Regan Williams comes in and starts on the wing. Bench, Lewis Horton, Casella, John Riley and Cal Donnell. Good to see Cal Donnell back. He's a great straight runner with the ball, big unit of a man, and carries really well into contact. And having him as an option on the bench should hopefully give Vagabonds some different choices to make come half-time, depending on how they're going. That game at Ballafletcher kicks off at 2:15. Like I said, that's going to be the feature game on Saturday Live tomorrow. And the final game of the weekend is a Cheshire Bowl game. Southern Nomads away at Aldershot. That one kicks off at 2:15 at Aldershot over there on the Wirral. Nomads in great shape to take a leap into the Cheshire Bowl final. Aldershot not having the best of seasons. They're not in the English Clubs Championship, so they don't meet the likes of Douglas or Vagabonds. They're playing in a Northwest Regional League, and they've only won 2 from 11. Nomad season has, by contrast, been quiet, but just after Christmas, they bagged an away win at Ramsey's Muirloc Park, and that's a pretty rare event. Nomads have announced a team. It's pretty much at full strength, which is what I'd expect from them at this stage of the season. They've got the speedster Tony Quine, who I think Tony must be at university because we don't see him coming up on the team sheet very often. He scored 2 tries in that game against Ramsey. Captain Finn McGregor is partner and Harry Brereton in the centres, so the veteran against the big straight runner. And the Crane brothers, Mikey Crane and Rob Crane, one's at wing, one's at fullback. Those guys were dynamite in the early part of the season. So things are looking good for Southern Nomads. They've got a full-strength side going over there. They should win, and they only need 2 points to guarantee themselves a space in the final. So good luck to Southern Nomads tomorrow. Simon.
Dave Christian, thank you very much. And Dave, with full coverage of that Vagabonds game throughout Saturday Live, and will join me again after 5 o'clock tomorrow evening with the Saturday Sport Classified. Just approaching 6:15, we'll talk hockey next.
Manx Radio Sport.
And finally, we move on to hockey. Ben Cunningham joining me in the studio. Well, we've got the update from Tony and Dave on the weather. Slightly different for hockey because obviously you're on the AstroTurf and it's the school grounds and everything. What's the latest you've got there with the NSC and the schools?
So the latest at the minute is that all the facilities are currently closed. They're going to remain closed overnight till 10 a.m. A review is going to get done at 10 a.m. tomorrow regarding the pitches. Providing they are all safe for use, we will go ahead. If there is any structural damage or any damage meaning that it's not safe to play, then games will be suspended at the venue. But we wait and see in the morning.
So we'll know more. Stay to listen to Manx Radio from about 10 o'clock onwards. We should have a decision on that. And Tony said something very similar again about the football. The decisions will be made at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. So Ben, it's Men's Cup, Plate and Bowl, although we haven't got any bowl fixtures this weekend. The Ladies' Cup, Plate and Bowl this weekend. Just very briefly, explain how these competitions work and what the sort of timeline is for them.
So this is the first round of the Men's Plate and Cup and the Ladies' Cup, Plate and Bowl. The men's bowl is already into a semi-final as there's only 4 teams in it. So this is the first round. Then it'll progress. The teams that progress from this round will go through to the semi-final, and then obviously we'll get our finals. So yeah, it's looking to be a very entertaining game, entertaining weekend of games coming up this weekend.
Okay, and we'll start off with the Men's Cup then. And the first game at 1:05 at QE2 is Valkyre's Men's A against Harlequins Men's A.
Yeah, this will be an interesting game, I reckon. Of course, Harlequins come into this game still looking for their first win of the season. However, they have faced 2 of the strong sides in the Premier League. As for Valkyres, though, they've got 1 win and... they've got 2 wins from their first 2 games. Of course, last weekend they played Castertown A and they only just got past Castertown A 4-3. So could it be a blip or could it just be a case of Castertown really did take the game to them? We wait and see it. But Harlequins have been a bogey team for Valkyries in previous seasons. But these 2 teams did meet in the Cup last year and Valkyries A come away with it very comfortably. So you would favour Valkyries A to come out on top looking at the statistics, but maybe Harlequins could have a good cup run. We'll wait and see.
Okay, well, the next game is actually, you're just talking about Castletown Men's A, giving the Valkyries Men's A team a good game last week. They take on the Valkyries Men's B team this week.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a very, very close game. And one thing to note as well, if these games are level at full time, then they go straight to a penalty flick shootout to decide a winner. We must have a winner decided on the day. There will be no draw in classifieds tomorrow. The format of how they all end up playing each other in the semi-finals is already confirmed, so we'll bring that all tomorrow night. But I think this could be a game that potentially could go to flicks, and this is one that we're going to cover for Saturday Live. So it's going to be an entertaining game. Of course, Castletown only just losing out to Valkyries A last weekend, but I'm sure they'd love to get it over Valkyries B this weekend.
Okay, we move on to the men's plate next. This first game there at 11:05 at Castle Rushen High School. Just the one game in the men's plate. There was a bye, I think, wasn't there?
There was a couple of byes in this one.
So this is Backers Men's B against Castletown Men's B as well.
Yeah, so Castletown Men's B, a win and a loss coming into this. But for Backers Men, for Castletown Men's B, it's been a win and a loss. But for Backers Men's B, it's been 2 wins, and they haven't conceded a goal yet this season so far. So a big task ahead for Castletown Men's B. But for Backers Men's B, they've been scoring plenty of goals. Okay, they got 11 or 10 past their C team last weekend when they played in the derby. But the week before that, I think they got about 7 goals as well past Harlequins. So going forward, they're looking really strong, and defensively as well, they're looking really strong. Castletown B, though, their opening game of the season was against Backers Men's C, and they got a good scotch of goals there. I think it was about 12 goals they scored out of that one. But they did concede 2 in the process, so it could be a case of which defence is better on the day, but we'll wait and see.
Okay, and the men's bowl, as we've already mentioned, gone straight to semi-finals. That will be played on the date of the other semi-finals.
Yep.
The Ladies' Cup we move on to now. 1:05 at... sorry, I've got these in the wrong order. Let's go with the 25-1 game at Ramsey Grammar School first. Backers Ladies A against Ramsey Ladies B.
I think this will be close.
Ramsey Ladies A, sorry, I should say.
Sorry. I think this one's going to be close as well. Another one that potentially could go to flicks. Of course, Ramsey A have only played 1 game so far this season, as their opening game of the season was called off because of Ramsey's pitch being unfit to play on the weekend where we had all the torrential rain and that. You'd only have to look at today, really, wouldn't you? But as for Backers, though, a win and a loss coming into this, so it's all to play for in that game. I think that one potentially could go to flicks as well.
Okay, the next other game in the Ladies' Cup is Vikings Ladies A against Harlequins Ladies A, 1:05 at the NSC.
And these two only just met last weekend, so they're meeting again for a second weekend. So Vikings A came away with the win last weekend in the league, just a narrow 2-0 win. So Harlequins will definitely want to try and get one back on Vikings, but the Vikings have tasted the success of this cup numerous times in numerous years. For Harlequins, though, I'm sure they'll want to get a good cup run, but it's going to be a close one. I think, though, it's going to be a tough ask just to get past Vikings A on the day.
Okay, and we move on to the Ladies' Plate, which is a Southern Derby getting underway. I bet they were pleased they got the Ramsey Grammar School game at 3:05, weren't they? Castletown Ladies B against Castletown Ladies C.
Oh, I'm sure they're delighted that it's a home game and they're playing each other in this round. Obviously, for one team, it's not going to be the result they'll want, because we'll lose one Castletown team. But yeah, when this got drawn on the night we did the draw, I think it was the 4th of January we did the draw. There was some reaction when it was a Castletown derby. You'd favour the B team over the C team, but we have seen it in previous derbies before where the lower team has beaten the higher team. Could this happen in the Ladies' Plate? We'll wait and see.
Okay, moving on to the Ladies' Bowl at 11:05 at the NSC. It's Valkyries Ladies C against Vikings Ladies C.
Yeah, Valkyries Ladies C, of course, their first game was called off due to an unfit pitch. But coming into this on the back of a loss. But then Vikings C had a great start to the season, winning 9-0 over Castletown E. but then last weekend drew with Harlequins Ladies B in the league, so maybe a little blip there, but I think you'd favour Vikings C on that one.
Okay, and 11 again, but that one out in the West Island at QE2. The other game in the Ladies Bowl is Castletown Ladies E against Harlequins Ladies B.
Yeah, I think this one potentially is another one that could go to flicks. Now, don't ask me to bet the lottery numbers for this one tonight, but these two sides look very well evenly matched for ability. I umpired Castletown E last weekend, and I have seen a bit of Harlequins Ladies B playing as well, and they do look two very even sides. So this one could be a good, entertaining game end to end, and could maybe come down to just one bit of magic. We'll see.
Okay, and that's the Cup, the Plate and the Bowl looked after. So we move on to the under-15s games for tomorrow. 2:05 at Ramsey Grammar School. It's Vikings A against Ramsey Rogues and Rascals.
Yeah, Vikings A looking really good against Ramsey Rogues and Rascals. The under-15s league is really competitive. You look at the main senior leagues and it just stands up to the senior leagues as well, and it's great to see lots of young talent coming through in this division. I'm going to go for a Vikings A win on that one, though.
Okay, the Vikings B team in action as well at 3:05 at the NSC. They take on Harlequins B.
Yeah, that's going to be a close one again. It's great to see that Vikings as a club have managed to get two under-15s teams into this league, which is great to see. Lots of young players coming through the Vikings ranks. Against the Harlequins side, though, they've got a lot of good young players as well. I think Harlequins, though, might just get it over the Vikings B, so Harlequins win on that one.
And finally, it's 3:05 at QE2, Backers against Valkyries.
Yeah, Valkyries are scoring goals for fun at the minute in this league, looking really strong. Backers as well, looking really good as well, but I'm going to go for a Valkyries win on that one.
Okay, Ben, thank you very much. Just a reminder, if people missed it at the start there, in terms of the action tomorrow, the decision will be made at 10 o'clock. So the NSC, the schools that the hockey's played at, they're all closed at the moment. Inspections taking place at 10 o'clock. Stay tuned to Manx Radio. We'll bring you an update as and when we get those, and if there are any changes to games across the island. Ben, thank you very much, and I'll speak to you on Classifieds tomorrow evening.
Speak to you then.
27 minutes after 6 o'clock. Just time to squeeze in a couple of bits of TT news into the Friday Sport preview. Manx TT rider Michael Evans has announced he will join Dafabet Racing for 2025. The Santon man has announced he'll be competing in the Superstock, Superbike, Super Twin classes for this year's event. Evans will also be switching to Honda machinery for the 1000cc races in June. The 31-year-old said, "I'm really excited for this opportunity with Dafabet Racing, especially with a bike as competitive as the Honda Fireblade, a truly competitive bike that has been missing for me." 2024 was a good year for Evans. He set his personal best lap of 128.232 during the Superbike TT and finished as high as 16th in the senior. However, Evans is targeting more for 2025, saying, "I believe I'm capable of more, and getting close to the top 10 as possible on the big bikes will be my main aim." Elsewhere, Jackson Racing announced its lineup for TT 2025 with Josh Brooks joining the team. He'd previously raced with them back in 2017, and he'll join Paul Jordan at this year's event. Both teammates will compete in the Superbike, Superstock and Superbike events on Honda machinery, and the Australian is joining the side off the back of a successful 2024 campaign where he became the 5th fastest rider ever around the mountain course as he lapped at 134.056 miles an hour on his way to a second place finish in the senior TT. Team owner Alan Jackson has added, "It's without a doubt our strongest team ever," and Brooks will join the Jackson Racing team at the Northwest 200 as well. And finally, Yorkshire racer Joey Thompson will be returning to the TT this year with a new team. He'll be making his 6th appearance on the mountain course and will join Team Talk of the Town York Suzuki by Motul Oils. The 27-year-old made his debut in 2017. He's gone from strength to strength since, and in 2024 set a personal best lap of 125.415. That's it for the Friday Sport preview for this evening. Don't forget you can catch up on the programme very shortly as a podcast at manxradio.com or wherever you get your podcast from. Paul Moran will be here for between 12 and 4 with Saturday Live tomorrow, joined by Tony, Dave and Ben out and about bringing you coverage of local football, rugby and hockey. I'll be back tomorrow evening between 4 and 6 on AM 1368 and Manx Radio AM on DAB with the full-time show and the classified results. And don't forget FC Isle of Man are in action at the Bowl tomorrow evening. Kick-off at 6 o'clock. Tony Mepham and Rob Pritchard with live commentary on AM 1368 and at Manx Radio AM on DAB. Chris Kinley is up next with Greatest Hits live through until 9, and I'll speak to you tomorrow afternoon.